Like I said, today we're going to be looking at chapter 23, which is organization structure and strategy. We'll be seeing the relationship mainly between the two, the structure and the strategy. How does that help in the performance of the organization? How does that have an effect, especially in how the organization is run on a day-to-day basis? So we shall look at the challenges that affect different structures that are used in the company, how they affect the company. We shall see the organizational structures, the different types that are involved, and how you can be able to choose the appropriate structure. We shall look at the internal relationships and also the external relationships, and then lastly we shall see what Mitzbag says about this entire organizational structure and strategy. So the different types of structures that are involved. The first one, we have the entrepreneurial structure. So here we have decisions being done by two major players, where one is the entrepreneur and the second is the employees that are being employed in the organization. So the different benefits that you get from that, and there are also disadvantages that come along with having that kind of structure in place. So where we have only these kind of two decision makers involved, it means everything is almost not defined properly. We don't classify. Maybe we say this particular person is responsible for doing this. We could say maybe the CFO will look at the finances and head the finance department. Maybe we shall have the IT department, which will be headed by maybe an IT consultant or manager, and they can be able to make decisions based on the departments that have been given to them. So here the entrepreneur or the owner of the company can make majority of the decisions, and then we'll give them to the employees to be able to either follow and do as he has instructed. So the benefit of that is that it builds teamwork, because now everyone knows they are reporting to one particular head. It can also be flexible in a way. If look at it in a way whereby, for example, we're a production company, and our target for this month has been maybe producing one type of a brand. Let's say we produce shoes, bags, clothes, and then we say this month we're going to focus on producing shoes. Then along the way we're able to get someone that needs an order for bags. So because now because the entrepreneur makes the decisions, they are flexible enough to say, no, let's now first work on this order, then we can return back to the shoes. So it's flexible in that way, and also gives a responsive for change. However, it brings about slow decision or slow processes, because now everything has to be reported back to one person to decide. So it delays the decision process and the entire process of production maybe, and everything else involved. It is also demotivating, whereby the employees are not given a chance for themselves to show their capabilities, bring contribution to the organization in terms of putting in place, giving ideas on how they could maybe do proper management, improve company productivity, and all the other segments that are involved. Then it promotes dysfunctional decision making, because now the decisions will be made by mainly the entrepreneur. Then apart from that, the entrepreneurial structure, we have the functional structure. With the functional structure, people are organized according to the types of work that they do, or we could say depending on the different departments that are involved. and defined by the different functions. So we have the board that is heading, and then we have different departments that are put in place. We have the production, for example. We could say the purchasing, the IT department, the accounts or finance department, marketing. So now we could say maybe clustered into different departments. All employees are attached somewhere. So here we have what shows that we have this kind of structure in place, or the function in place. You will see different employees having formal job description. They will tell you that your role is maybe, for example, to prepare payment slips, or so you know you're going to fall in this particular department. Or maybe your job description is to ensure that you do marketing for all the items that have been produced, to ensure that they are sold in large quantities. So you know that you're going to be in the marketing department or sales department. So depending on the job description that you're given, then you know that you lie in a certain department. There is a benefit of that. However, there are different challenges that come along when we have such a structure in place. Imagine your marketing department has had a meeting and have said, reduce that volume, Lynn. So assuming the marketing department has set a meeting for themselves, and they've said this month, for us to be able to hit our KPIs, we're going to have to produce maybe this number of items. Maybe we'll say we're going to produce 100 items of each product that we're supposed to. Sorry, that is for the purchase. For the production department, of each product we're supposed to produce, we're going to do, let's say, this order quantity. And then along the way, someone in the sales department has gone out to do marketing, and they've gotten an order of, let's say, 10 times what has been planned or budgeted for by the marketing department. So he comes and says, hey guys, you had planned to produce 10 bags and then 10 shoes and 10 maybe clothes and 10 shirts and all that. But now that, let's say for example, they finished producing the shoes and they're producing, let's say, the bags, and the salesperson puts on table the order that they have, but the production department says, look here, we cannot be able to do that because we've already finished the production for the shoes as regards to this month. So it brings about the clashing between the different departments, and they tend to forget the unifying goal, which is to better, or to ensure that the company performs better. So that's a challenge that comes along with this kind of structure. Then we also have the multi-divisional structure, whereby now we don't have different departments, but rather we have the board, where we have divisions. Let's say we have division A and division B, and division A has its departments, and division B has also their own departments. So look at it like there is the headquarters. Let's say you're doing this kind of work. You need the production department, you need the sales team, you need the, let's say, the administration team. So also division B, because they have something else that they're producing, or it could even be the same, but maybe they're in different geographical locations, they will also have their own different departments put in place. So what advantage that comes along with this? Now with division A, if they have a sales order, they don't need to go and consult division B to produce for them. They can do production for themselves, they can do marketing for themselves, they can do sales, they can do anything, same as division B. So both of the teams can be able to do as much work as they can at the same time without interfering with the other. So that is the main benefit of having this kind of structure in place, and it's much favorable for large organizations, whereby they don't have to continuously be dependent on the different divisions for their performances. Then we have the matrix structure. So here we have 2 or more dimensions. It could be on the functions, it could be on the location, maybe the geographical regions that they are in. So how this happens, For example, look at let me try to put a pen. So we look at, let me use a different ink. So okay, let's use this. So we look at this person. For example, this is the matrix. So we have different countries. We have, let's say, country A, country B, country C, and all these country A's have the departments that they report to. There is a production department, there is the finance department, sales and human resource, which are all, let's say, at the head of, maybe the head office, or there is a head person for each of these departments. And then there is you, who is the employee. You're in country A, or you're in country B, but you're reporting to the finance department. So how does this become a matrix? So you will find that, assuming you're an audit, okay, let's say you're an auditor, you're doing an audit for a particular company in country B, and at the same time, now when you're an auditor, let's say you're under the finance department. At the same time, let's say that's the head of tax says, I also need this person to be able to do for me additional work. So you find that this person is being overwhelmed by both works which are coming from country B and from the department where he falls. You could be in country A or country B or country C, but you're all reporting to one particular department, which is either the sales or the finance or the production. So you're doing work to report to the finance department, and at the same time you're doing work to report to the country that you're working in. So you, as a person who is here in the matrix, you're getting overwhelmed, because now you could have two different responsibilities that are running at the same time, that you're expected to deliver very well, which is pretty much not possible, because if everyone says you must present the report today, it's not okay. You may try, but then it may not be as it should be in terms of the quality of the coverage. So how can a company come in to help? You could say maybe every work that is going to be assigned to a particular person should first be discussed with, let's say, the department head, and this person can see how to align if this work can be carried on along with the other. Let's say, assuming you're auditing, and then you can also be able to do maybe sample checks for the tax department, not having different work assigned from maybe say that the tax department from country B, and also the finance department from head office. So I don't know if that is clear. Any questions before I proceed? Okay. So there are some advantages that come along with having this kind of matrix structure in place, and as well as the disadvantages. So with advantages, we have increased collaboration between the people from the different function leads to a sharing of expertise, because now you're sharing one particular, let's say, one country or one department, so you can be able to collaborate much better for the members who are in that function. And it also enables flexibility, because now you can be able to have different dimensions achieved with using different activities. Let's say a different region could be used for one, let's say we can say for marketing activity, and then they can be able to now do more research, or maybe do more marketing in their region or their country of location. Then it also helps that the team to prioritize. If your country, let's say this country B or country C, has as a particular target or KPI that they're trying to maximize on, maybe it could say they're not performing well in let's say quality or maybe sales, you say we're going to focus more and be able to, you can be able to prioritize which things you need to do best, give them more time, and the team can be able to focus on them to have a better output. But the challenge with this kind of matrix is the decision making is much slower, because now you have to go to the department head and then go to the country head to be able to, and having a consensus between the two. Different meetings will be needed, explanations, and at the end of the day, the decisions will take much longer to be approved, hence a slower business. So that is it about the matrix structure. We can look at the transnational structure. So the transnational structure, this one combines the best features of the previous approaches to create competencies of global relevance, together with the responsiveness to the different local conditions, as well as the innovation and learning. So here we look at two different. Just a second. Okay. So here now in the transnational structure, we try to see what features we can be able to bring together or combine, either from the maybe from what we've tried before, the previous approaches that have been used by the organization, and then they try to come up with something that works much better for the area or for the market, for the global relevance, for them to continue to be relevant enough or be able to still serve their purpose and responsiveness in the areas of location. So under this Bartlett describes the matrix with two important features, and one, it responds to the challenges of globalization, because now you try to focus on the village or the global village that you're dealing with, and then it tends to have a high proportion of fixed responsibilities in horizontal lines of management. So now you know which fixed responsibilities can be taken on and how they can be well managed. So with this kind of structure in place, how it works, if you have a transaction organization that is being run, here you will find that the network structures that are being used are not centralized. Like, let's say we're not following what head office is telling us. No, it's not centralized, but then they'll just have processes that well streamlined, that they can be able to use to govern them as they run their organizational functions. You will not have to, let's say if we get an order, we must first report to head office, then there will be approval for this, and then the production can begin, and then the supply. That is much different. Here it will not be like that. However, you will have in place governing processes that are centralized, which are maybe head office said sales procedure will be like this. You identify the customer, create a customer account, pick their order, send to maybe the warehouse, have it approved by supervisor. So you follow the same to help you keep governed in the same organizational structures or functions that are done, but then you don't have to be completely centralized in terms of performance. The advantages that come along with that kind of structure in place, it helps in employing local managers who understand the um, the um, the village or the country of that they're operating in. If let's say in Africa, we are going to operate in Africa, get someone who best understands Africa, and then they can be able to take on that role. So it makes it much easier and snappy to save time that would have done you would have wasted in learning that particular market. Then it helps with decentralization, whereby each country or each different global village can be able to uh, try to learn to run independently. It also helps with economies of scale, because now you will have less going back and forth, so there will be cost saving, there will be efficiency. However, on the other hand, it tends to bring about communication problems between now the different global villages and the let's say the head office. If they're in different, let's say, region, they don't know what is happening on a day-to-day basis. If they don't intentionally try to find out, they may not know the entire details, and that could be difficult for making better decisions or informed decisions that would affect that particular global village. Then it also leads to loss of control, especially for the management that is in a different region. And not all products and services can be able to travel, so it makes it much difficult. It means that now you have to see what cannot maybe head office could be, for example, let's say the head offices are, let's say, in Europe, just for example, and they are based in Europe. Like the expertise is much better in Europe than you can find in the local village. But the service that they want cannot travel, maybe because of the languages, because of, or even they do not sync with the local market, what it desires. Maybe it could be about teaching the product. You can say, for example, you're training the team about, let's say, product usage. We could say maybe the product is let me see which products could be a little varying. We could say maybe mechanics. They are machines. You find in Europe, particular machines are used for doing certain works, but in this global village, they do not have any idea about those machines, and maybe they're even not suitable to be used in that particular environment. So that particular service of someone who is going to train, the expertised person who is going to train, may not be able to come and train these people, because now maybe it doesn't apply totally in that particular region. Maybe they can't understand each other, so now they have to develop maybe a particular product that suits that particular global village. So it makes the product not being able to be transferred from one particular region to another, and it's a bit complex because now there will be a lot of things involved. So that is it about the transnational structure. I don't know if there are any inquiries, or we can be able to proceed to the next.
Kindly share the screen.
Oh, sorry. I had shared some time back. What has happened? Okay, let me try to reshare again. I don't know. On my end, it shows it is sharing. Let me try to unshare and reshare. Can you see the screen?
No, I'm not seeing it.
Up to now, you can't see?
It's
Now I can see.
Okay, thank you. So now let's proceed to team-based project-based structure. So this one is a little bit um, extension of the matrix approach, because now we shall have also teams and projects running, let's say side by side or running at the same time. So team-based structures, this one is often used in projects that have a finite life, or they can come to an end. So some of the features of the team-based and project-based structures, mainly very little formalization. So you need to put in place different teams to be able to do that particular work, or be able to do that particular project. Very flat span of control. Then teams are organized around work processes. So it means if you have this kind of project that you're running, let's say this is a construction project, this is a cleaning project, this is maybe a catering project, maybe this is a finance project. These different projects can still run at the same time, but you will need to get people who will run in that, who will be able to participate in the different kind of teams that projects that you're running. So you'll say team A will have maybe a group of 5 people who have knowledge in finance. Team B will have a group who are in expertise in construction. So you organize them based on the work processes that are required, or that the members can be able to deliver. And then they are also usually found within divisional structures, whereby we have let's say different divisions put in place in organization. Maybe division A, division B, where we say division A can be able to run on its own with, let's say, the sales, production, different departments. Also the division B can be able to run with its own department. So under these departments you put the different teams that can be able to support and help. So that's how you will know that you can, in this case, a team-based structure is much more important, because maybe we have different divisions running, we have different processes that maybe will need to run at the same time. So it's best to have teams in place. We also have choosing a structure. So now this is different from the different structures that we were identifying or putting down. Now we're going to look at what category or what decisions will you that will aid you or help you as you're trying to choose a structure to put in place for the organization. So what are the different importances that an organization can be able to enjoy by or benefit from by having structures in place? Having structures, one, helps in identifying different roles for different people in the organization. So it brings about organization. So that helps in improving communication between the different departments, or between the different people with the different roles. If I'm in the finance department and my role is to, let's say, do invoicing, I know I will have to collaborate with the person who is doing the dispatch, with the person who is doing the approval of the invoices, with the person who is any person who is in your chain of work. So it means you can be able to communicate along the hierarchy structure. So it will aid in having informed decisions by the different people, or even better communication between the different people in different hierarchies. Then also having structures in place will have an influence on the career progression based on the skills that the organization values. So this will have an influence on the behavior of the different staff. For example, if we have a functional structure which values staff within a specific, maybe who have a specific kind of skill, or they know they have a particular knowledge that is desirable at that particular moment, so can be able to focus on those. So members can be able to, you can be able to choose people who have a knowledge in that particular career, vis-a-vis if it was unstructured, and any person can be able to do different kind of work. But if you're an organization that doesn't have structures, it means now that for you, you're flat. Now it means now for you, when you're looking for different career members to employ, you will now not look at specific knowledge or specific skill that the individuals have. Your main goal now will be to look for someone who is more flexible to be able to perform in department A, department B, department C. You've seen these things in some of the organizations. I don't want to mention those kinds of organizations, but you've seen whereby someone is employed and they don't have a job description. Someone is the receptionist, at the same time they can do the cleaning, at the same time they can be the coordinator between, let's say, the warehouse and maybe the finance department. They're falling in almost all the different departments. So it means now for them the project is flat. Or maybe you've seen some projects whereby a person is doing the construction, at the same time they're doing the supervision, at the same time they're doing maybe the delivery of different items, maybe to different locations of the project constructions, different things. So now here you focus on looking for someone that is really more flexible than having the skill. So now that will guide you as you're trying to choose a structure that you want. You will have to look at what things will influence the kind of structure that you will have to put in place. Okay, any questions before we proceed? Okay, so let's look at the main factors that we need to consider as we are trying to select the structures that we want to implement in the organization. So first you'll need to evaluate the need of control, or the need for control. If you're in an organization whereby you need a lot of centralized control, it means now the structure you will try to choose should be able to favor that, other than having a structure in place where different departments can be able to operate without having to communicate with a head office, for example, not having to do consultation. Structures that really support teams to run independently almost. So you evaluate how much control do you need. In large organizations, where we have almost the same products that we are selling across the different region, control may be important, because now you want to ensure that you have the same quality, you have same way, or that you're trying to ensure that everything is as much systemic as it can be, maybe in terms of delivery, in terms of product knowledge, in terms of quality, in terms of packaging, all this you want to still have control. So there, if you a large organization, you can say all productions will be done from the head office, and then we shall maybe distribute to you and have someone who can still monitor that. But for places whereby for structures where we saw that based on different geographical locations, we need to have different, let's say, designs being done for that suit that particular market, or maybe the tastes are different. So there you may not value control as much as the other organization. So now for you, you'll have to consider something that can favor you. Then we also can factor in the level of uncertainty in the environment and the speed of change. Where we have fast changing environments, many organizations will need to be more flexible and may need to restructure fairly frequently, such that every single time you're informed of what changes are happening in the different regions, and you have to be able to cope with those changes. Otherwise, you will end up being obsolete. So if the speed of change is extremely high, you will need to be able to put in place or consider something that can enable you to still keep up with the pace. And if the speed of change is literally slow, so it means it's not very much drastic for the organization, and then they can be able to, let's say, keep in a systemized way of operation. So that uncertainty in between can either help you, if you're certain that the changes are not very many, you can say we shall continue with let's say a structure that favors centralization of maybe decisions of production of different departments, and then different departmental heads can be able to present the information to us. But if the changes are really constantly happening, that would not be much appropriate. So you can be able to say, let's have a structure whereby we'll have division A and division B in place, where division A can be able to maybe produce based on the market changes in their region, and then division B can also be able to produce at the same time something that favors their market. Then we also need to consider the growing importance of knowledge sharing. For example, now if we have a matrix and the transnational structure, whereby we are reporting, let's say, to the department and the different countries, here it tends to be suitable for organizations that wish to share knowledge across the different regions. So now you know you're reporting to the, let's say, the finance department in head office, but you're under operation in country maybe C, or country different countries. So now it means at the end of the day, the finance department can be able to collect knowledge from all the different countries or that are in place. So they know what is happening in country A, country B, country C, country D, and all the other countries. Same as maybe the marketing, this marketing strategy works well in country A but doesn't work in country B, depending on what is happening in the local market. So if you have that kind of interest of having knowledge, then you can consider, let's say, the matrix and the transnational. But if knowledge still does not is not something that you want to focus on, maybe your focus is on having as much production timely as possible, then for you can be able to consider a different structure, maybe of having different divisions in place. Then you also need to consider the rise of internationalism. If we have in place transnational structures or maybe matrix structures, organizations tend to be more appropriate in international businesses, as they allow local factors to be taken into account. Why? Because now you're allowing different countries to do their work, but at the same time they are giving reports to the different departments at head office, for example. So the countries can be able to take or incorporate in the international businesses that are happening, but then you will still be able to meet the company or the organization's competencies, because you will continuously be in touch with different departments that are designated maybe at the head office and on a day-to-day determining how you can be able to run or do the work. Are we okay? Any questions? Okay, so if there are no questions, then let's proceed. Let's look at organizational design. So Gold and Campbell had tried as much as possible to provide a more practical framework that can assist in organizational design. And the design is based on 9 different factors that we need to consider as we're trying to do these organizational structures. So this is mainly based on the 2 different principles, which is fit for the purpose and the good design. So it should be able to be good enough and at the same time fit, or can be able to serve its purpose. So the factors that they came up with, one is the product market strategies. So you try to see what design fits the market, can help you to maximize the market advantage, or to ensure that you can be able to take as much advantage in the market that you're operating in as possible. So you have to ask yourself, as you're choosing the different strategy or the different design, does the design enable you as an organization to have management attention to the operating priorities that you as an organization has, or does it not? Does it help you achieve the intended sources of advantage for each product that you're producing and trying to deliver and supply in the particular market you're targeting, or does it not? So you have to ask yourself this and see if it's favorable enough for me to take advantage of the market. Then it means it can be able to fit its purpose, and then you can implement on that. You can also ask yourself, you can also consider the corporate strategy, or what we call the parenting advantage test. So you ask yourself, does this design that I'm trying to consider for the organization help in allocating sufficient attention to the intended sources of added value? Can it be able to help you as an organization focus enough attention on the sources that give you added advantage for you to be able to thrive in that particular market? Or if it doesn't, then do you need to change? Then we can also consider the people. So as you're trying to see the strategy designs that are in place, can they be able to help you as an organization reflect on the motivations, the different strengths and weaknesses that are in the different people that you're having in those particular regions, or as an organization? Does it really fit? Does it really fit the purpose of you having to be able to ensure that you can maximize the people's strengths and also be able to identify their weaknesses and try to polish them out? Or does it not serve the purpose? Is it good? Does it fit that particular aim that you're having as an organization? So you consider, or you make a decision based on that. If yes, if that is very important to you, means you can be able to make a decision if that really helps you to fit the purpose. But if it doesn't, then you can be able to decide otherwise. We also consider the constraints that come along with it, or what we call the feasibility test. So you see if this takes into consideration of the constraints that you may face as an organization. Can these constraints be able to make the proposal workable, or can they make it unworkable? Are these constraints coming as a result of legal concerns, or is it regulation concerns? Is it resources? Is it maybe the cultures of the organization? So you see if it can be able to meet the different constraints that are likely to be faced by the organization, and if it can be able to factor those in. So those ones are mainly for fitting the purpose. The first four, we consider them as we're trying to look at if the strategy fits its intended purpose. And then we have the additional 5, which will help us to decide if this is good, or they can be able to help you decide if this is a good design for the organization or not. So here we look at the specialization, or what we call the specialist culture test. So here we look at things like, do any units that need to have different culture have sufficient protection from the influence of maybe the dominant culture? Can they enable you to be able to specialize in something that you are intending to produce, or you must be able to follow what the culture stipulates or what it has already spelled out before? So you see if this is a good design, can it help you to be able to fit within the boundaries, or you have to develop something extremely different? You also have to consider the coordination, or what we call the difficult links test. You see if it can be able to coordinate the benefits that would be hard to achieve on the networking basis. So as management, you can be able to decide if yes, this really can help us to include the different solutions that can be able to ease the difficulties that we face, then this is a good design. And if it does not really help us to solve the different difficulties, then it is not serving its purpose, and it will not be good enough, or it will not be a good design, so we can be able to change it. We also consider the knowledge and competence, what we call the redundant hierarchy test. Here we consider the different levels of the hierarchy and the different responsibilities that are retained by the higher levels based on the knowledge and the competences that they consider to be more important to an organization. So it means that the design you're trying to look at should be able to address the different responsibilities that are delegated to maybe people who are more skilled vis-a-vis to different responsibilities that can be managed by the other people. So the good design could help you to ensure that you can be able to maintain that kind of hierarchy if you're interested in that particular hierarchy anyway. So you can be able to see which people have more skilled knowledge, what responsibilities can they be able to do, and what other things can we be able to give to the other people that are moderately skilled. Then we also consider the control and the commitment, or what we call the accountability test. Here we try to find out if the design that we are having can facilitate the creation of control processes for different units, for each of the units, that is appropriate to its responsibilities. So here we look at both the economic factors that will come along with implementing, and also can be able to motivate the managers. And lastly, we have the innovation and adaptation, or what we call the flexibility test, and this will help in this identifying the design which can help in development of new strategies, because now here you aim at having innovations coming on as maybe if you're in a changing environment and you have to continuously innovate, or you look at the adaptation for the future changes. So those are the main factors that we consider for which design we can be able to take in place. Give me a 1 minute break. Something small. Okay, so let's now proceed. So now let's look at the configurations where we have Henry suggested organizational structures that are more complex than mere different designs of organization of an organizational chart. So he suggests 5 different coordination mechanisms that can be combined with the 5 organizational components, so they can be configured into different types of the organizations. So the 5 mechanisms of coordination that were designed one, we have the coordination of mutual adjustment, where we look at the agreements in the informal consultation. Then we have direct supervision, where we have a person that has a responsibility of looking over the work that is being done by the different people, or is doing the supervision and the controlling of the different activities. We have also the standardization of working progresses. So you have in place instructions that must be followed, such that all the different working processes will keep with the same standard or will follow the same procedure. Then we can also do standardization of output. Here where we have the output now will have to be fixed. Instead of fixing the process, now we can fix the output or the result. So ensure that every different, let's say different, whichever structure that you choose, at the end of the day, the output should not have any alteration. And then we can have standardization of skill. Here we consider the description of necessary training for a particular job. Let's say if one person is going to be able to do surgery on different people, they must be able to go under through a skill of maybe surgery. They must learn what procedures are necessary for, let's say, every operation that is supposed to be done on the patient. So now here you can focus on the skill, or you can focus on the output. At the end of the day, we must have let's say a particular food with this particular taste, or we can say the process of working. Maybe we shall have one person is going to ensure that all the companies, all the different departments or branches can be able to follow the same working procedure. Or we can do direct supervision, someone being able to ensure that all activities are controlled and being done as they should. Or we can do coordination by mutual adjustment. So those are the 5 different mechanisms of coordination that were put in place. So these we can also look at the 5 components of an organization, but we had looked at this earlier before in the initial chapters. So this can be able to affect the different components of organizations. For example, the strategic apex, the operating core, the middle line, the ones who are in the technostructure, and the support system. So we have different types of organizations that are in place. And the different types are one, we have the simple structures. So here we have key positions, which are vertical and horizontal. based on the direct supervision. So these are not very complicated. Then we have the machine bureaucracy, where we look at the technostructure, which has the key positions, and these are limited both in the horizontal decentralization based on the working standards that are required by the organization. So here we mainly look at, we don't consider mainly of the vertical, we look at the horizontal in terms of let me try to have a pen. So if we have different departments or different my pen doesn't make sense. If this is the line my line is very crooked, but anyhow, assuming this is a straight line, so the different levels that we have in place on this particular line will focus on the authority that has been given to them, and how they can be able to ensure that there is proper management or running of authority. So we run like a machine. We follow what has been standardized and what has been set along the different authority levels. Then we have the professional bureaucracy. Here we have the operating core that has the key position with the vertical and the horizontal decentralization based on the standardized skill. So we consider the different skills that are more important in the organization, which skills are more core or are more important, and then we identify key positions, and those positions are filled with people who have who are more skilled both on the vertical and on the horizontal. Then we have the divisionalized form. Here the middle line plays the key role within the limited vertical decentralization based on the standardization of the output. And then lastly we have the adhocracy, and under this we have the support structure, which plays the key role. So it can be played maybe with the operating core, where you identify what roles are more important or are more core for the organization, or they can be with a selective decentralization based on the mutual adjustment that there are in the organization. So those are the different types of organizations that can be in the different organizations, or that can be stipulated among the different organizations. Any inquiries? Okay, so if there are no inquiries, let's now look at the centralization or the decentralization. In the organization. So now in an organization we can have a relationship that is either centralized or it can be decentralized. So when we say centralization, here we have we have like a one focal point of control, where we have for example, all authority coming from one particular point. Let's say we can say all authorizations will be done by head office before any progress is being done among the different maybe divisions, that all the different departments in the different divisions. And then with the decentralization, here we have authority being delegated to different people in the different departments or regions. So of course there are advantages that come along with either of the two, depending on how the organization what it deals in and what they consider more important or more focal for them. So if you're going to consider a decentralized way of or delegating of authority, depending on the different maybe departments and divisions, here if we have several, it is more successful if we have several separate activities, where we have, let's say, a different unit. Let's say we can look at an item that has different sub items that combine to make it a whole. We could say, for example, let's say shoes. Maybe one unit is producing soles, another unit will produce the shoelaces, another one will produce the design, another one will produce, let's say, will do the maybe the shaping, and maybe one will also be doing maybe the stitching. So it means you have different activities that are being run by different units. So if you say all this should run by one person giving authority, it means there could be delays. But now if you decentralize and give if each unit head authority, they can say we have this kind of order that is in place, so we're going to produce this particular design and these quantities on this from this time to this time, so people can be able to do their different works in at a given time, because now they don't have to wait for permissions. Then where we have independent divisions, these ones are maybe in different geographical locations. They can be able to make decisions that favor them, that favor maybe conditions, the location, the market, and different other things. So there, the decentralization is much better than having a centralized way of governance. Then if we also have we have in place carefully designed performance evaluation systems, here we can comfortably be able to decentralize authority, because at the end of the day everything will run as the system has been set. And if we have in place central policies to integrate and control the decisions, maybe for example they will govern you on capital expenditures, or maybe how you're going to do the pricing, such kinds of work, then it means the other policies you can be able to easily decide based on the regions. Then for organizations that can consider centralization, if you're running an organization that is having a stable environment, it means now for you don't have lots of changes that are happening, then there it is much easier and favorable to do a centralized way of governance. And then if you also have standardized products, nothing is changing, everything is running okay from region A to region B, market A, market B, market C, all the products are standardized. There it's much easier, and you can use centralization. And if the cultures are also not having much significant change, that's also okay. Then if centralization also suits more functions better than the decentralization, then that would also give an advantage to be able to focus on having centralized way of governance. For example, if you say we're going to do research and maybe development, and all this will maybe need a governance of a particular person who is maybe skilled, so it means you can keep the control to that particular department or departmental head. So those are some of things you can be able to consider when you're deciding whether to have centralization or decentralization. So let's look at the management styles. We have different strategic management styles that can be used. So here you look at things like strategic planning style. So based on how decisions are made and where they are made from, you can be able to decide whether this can be left in the centralized way of management style, or it can be decentralized, or maybe you can even incorporate both of them. So if if you have in place a strategic planning style, this could be mostly centralized. Or you can also look at the financial control style. Most organizations prefer having this decentralized. Why? Because now different branches, organizations in different geographical regions could find it extremely difficult to have, let's say, financial approval, then payment process and procedures coming from one particular point, and it's also extremely overwhelming based on the number of transactions that you have. If let's say we're going to pay people for deliveries, people for supply, people for along the chain, and then you say all payments will come from head office, so it means they will have to wait for quite a long time before the payments come through, and that is going to cause lots of delays. But now if you're located in different regions, you can say we'll decentralize this. Each country can have in place a finance manager, for example, will be responsible for management and a processing of the different financial transactions. So you decentralize that. And then if we have strategic control styles, these ones you can either centralize, or you can also decentralize. So you can either choose one or even mix both of them. So you can that's how you can be able to make a decision based on what style you have, and how you can make a decision if on whether you can have it centralized, decentralized, or even have a mix for the both of the two. Are we together as of that point? So now let's look at collaborative working, or this is we could also call it partnership or joint working. So this one we have two or more organizations that can come together and they are able to work together on a particular strategy. So for example, you can say strategic alliances such as joint ventures and franchises. These ones can come together and make decisions together and do most of the things together. Then where we have collaboration with suppliers or customers on development of particular products, here we can also have a unified working strategy across the suppliers and the customers, so they can be able to have a product. Maybe you could say a particular kind of quality that you want from suppliers, how they can be able to make it better for you to be able to ensure that you produce products that are more suitable for the customers. Then also when we have collaboration with competitors to promote Olobi on behalf of the industry, it means that it will be of much benefit for us to work together with our competitors in terms of decision making, in terms of strategy setting, to ensure that we are able to push forward together. Then also you can look at the network organizations. These ones also mainly will have collaboration or joint working to ensure that they're able to achieve best their goals. Then we have something called outsourcing. I think we've also talked about this quite a number of times, or even in on the day-to-day work environment. Now we've seen a lot of outsourcing coming in. What is outsourcing? First of all, I think I had given an example some time back where we said, and you could be, let's say, an organization, but your interest is let's say not on finance, and then you will say, for the moments when we need to do financial reporting, we'll outsource someone, let's say from a finance company, maybe you could say an audit firm, to come and help us do an auditing. They do the checking, advise on how to do preparations, and have that done, and then the person can be able to go back to their mother company to continue doing their work. So you don't have to employ someone constantly throughout the year. They can only come for a year, for let's say a month or two, to be able to aid you in that particular sector where you need assistance. So that is more like external sourcing or vending for a skill or service that you're looking out for. So for you to have an successful outsourcing, it depends on quite a number of things, and some of them could be the service levels required, what you need, or the specifications of what is to be supplied. If the specifications can be met or they cannot be met. Also would consider the conformance with the specifications, if they can be able to work around with the specifications that you've given and be able to deliver. Then we also look at the exit route if the specification is not achieved. If you say this person is going to come in and give advice on internal management, maybe also internal controls, and then they're not able to give they're not able to help you achieve what you intend to achieve, and you can also look at how you can then let them be. Can they give you a replacement, or can you be able to have a chance to check elsewhere? You also need to consider the time scale. How much time do you have available between let's say now and when you need the service availed to you or the product ready? If the other person can be able to meet the time scale or not, then you can that can help you in making the decision on whether to outsource or maybe have someone permanent to do that work for you. You also look at the employment issues. What issues arise with the different employments? if you decide to do employment for yourself other than outsourcing, or what issues will come along with the person that has been given to you from the vendor. So those are different considerations you need to put in place to consider for a successful outsourcing. Like we said, that advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing, some of them could be saving, it's economic, and you can get the best skill at maybe a lower cost. It saves you a lot of expenses in terms of hiring, training, but also the challenges that you'll get. Now you'll have more confidentiality issues. You'll have and you'll not have a skilled person continuously being on the team, so it means you will have something lacking in terms of that expertization, and different many others challenges that come along, like we had seen in one of the previous chapters. So now let's look at internal partnering. So with internal partnering, here we have cooperation and collaboration between the teams and functions of an organization, promoting a one team. So they aim at promoting one team. So we have different teams in the organization that will come together and try to work towards having or achieving the company goals. So you come to you share the goal, and then you ensure that both of you can be able to work, or all the different teams can be able to work towards achieving that particular role. So you could say maybe the finance department will come together with the human resource maybe department, the partner, and ensure that maybe the ultimate goal is to ensure that we have maybe good employees. So the finance can maybe support in a way of, we shall help you with looking for the best team members, or maybe in terms of payments, so that the HR can be able to concentrate on having maybe the intended goal of having best team members on the team. Or it could even be between maybe finance and sales. Maybe the sales department has a target of achieving maybe a certain amount of a target, and for that to happen, they need assistance from the finance to maybe assist them in terms of, let's say, production, in terms of transportation of these goods, or supporting them to be able to sell in terms of, let's say, marketing. So these two teams can partner and be able to ensure that they achieve the ultimate goal, which is the set target. And then we have offshoring. I don't know if you've heard of this before. So offshoring here is the practice of locating operations outside the organization's home country. So different from outsourcing, but now here we can say, let's say, for us to be able to get a good, let's say, a good finance manager, we need in the current country we need a cost of, let's say, 10 million. However, we can be able to get the same skilled finance manager in a different country at, let's say, 6 million. So you try to offshore that person from a different country, but generally we try to look for countries that can be able to support us with lower costs. So that's what offshoring is. We've seen places, things like people moving from, let's say, Uganda to Dubai to be able to do some kinds of jobs. Maybe it could be responsibilities which are not much skilled, which don't need a lot of much skilled personnel, and then you can be able to offshore those people from a different country or a different region to come and do that particular work. So now let's look at global business services. Global business services, usually they tend to bring together shared services and outsourcing arrangements to form an integrated service. For example, you can say maybe the finance department, HR, or maybe even procurement, and many other more. So you say maybe for the different division A, division B, or maybe the different, we can say we have a subsidiary in country A, country B, country C, but these can be able to share services of human resource. So we say all the recruitments will be done by the head office, maybe which is in country A, and then they can be able to support the different countries in recruiting maybe skilled personnel. So you're trying to share a service, or you're trying to outsource a particular service or arrangement from one particular, maybe from one particular country or from one particular department, so it can be shared amongst the different maybe subsidiaries or different regions or different divisions. So there is a reason as to why organizations can decide to have sharing of these particular services, and one of them is mainly to ensure that there is an improved process and minimization of costs. So it means that you say you could say instead of having or minimizing the risk of having unskilled personnel, all scrutiny will be done by maybe the central human resource department in terms of scrutinizing the different people that are coming on board to ensure that we have the same kind of skill, or maybe to ensure that we can be able to have a better quality in terms of, let's say, production, in terms of output of the service. So that is really one of the main things that could lead to such kind of arrangement. Otherwise, you could let the different subsidiaries or different organizations that are in different regions to be able to do that kind of work for themselves. Also, that helps in reducing costs. Instead of having different human resource departments in each of the 5 subsidiaries or branches that you have, it means now you can have one human resource department, maybe with maybe 3 or 5 people, and you don't, instead of having quite a number of them who are working in the different branches. So we have the dynamic network and the market network, and these aid in the functions, if either they are high value or they are not high value. So with dynamic network, here outcomes are even more heavy. So with this kind of arrangement, we have the central organization, and one of their core competencies, it could be maybe understanding the market. So what will they do? They will be able to assemble or even identify, let's say, assets that are owned by their companies. Sorry about that. So we're still talking about the dynamic network, and we're saying one of the core competencies of the central organization is to understand the market. So this will help in identifying and assembling assets owned by other companies. Then with the market network, here we have a collection of organizations trading in the market that fall into a stable pattern of relationship that gradually becomes solidified. So with the difference between the two kind of networks is that with a dynamic, we focus on having, let's say, products from one particular company. With a market network, here we have different players coming together, and they're all doing the trading in the market. So we have some examples of the network organizations. For example, the teleworking. Here is where people carry on their work independently with the internet. You've seen tele services that are being offered by corporate organizations. Then we have federation of experts. These ones are voluntary. They voluntarily come together to integrate their expertise to create products. Maybe, for example, in the entertainment industry, in the software industry, and many more. And then we also have one-stop shops. Here where we have a particular package of service or product being offered by a coordinating entity. For example, you can say Amazon could be a one-stop point for different writers or different kinds of books. So a person can say, if I'm looking for a book, I will come and check on Amazon. So that's an example of a one-stop shop. So that is it about today's chapter. I don't know if there are any questions for me, or we can be able to call it a day. Okay, so if there are no questions, let's stop here, and then we can be able to continue on Thursday. Otherwise, thank you so much for turning up for today's class, and have a good evening.